Hello, today we will be explaining chapter Revolutions and Civil Wars in Contemporary History. We will start by explaining the first key concepts: revolutions, age of revolutions and civil war. As said in the chapter, revolution can be change in the way a country was governed, usually to a different political system and often using violence or war. However, it can also be about societal changes, like in the case of the Industrial Revolution. The second key concept is the age of revolutions. This period, starting from the French Revolution in 1789, is characterized by the importance of revolutions and revolutionary movements that occurred in big parts of Europe and the Americas. The third key concept is civil war. This can be defined as wars fought by different groups of people living in the same country. Such wars could be driven by the clash of interests that were at stake in the revolution or that were under threat of being overrun in its course. In the period 1914 to 1948, revolutions and civil wars are intrinsically connected. Revolutions can lead to civil wars, and civil wars can end up with revolutionary movements. An important idea within this period is the European Civil War. This thought by the German historian Ernst Nolte departs from the idea that the two world wars and the period in between in fact form one large European-wide conflict. Despite being criticized for his ideas, the idea of a European civil war has gained ground. Conceptually speaking, the long ideological clash between socialism and imperialism, between liberalism and conservatism, and between communism and fascism was frequently the fuel of revolutions, insurgencies, coups and all-out wars during the first half of the 20th century. The first wave of the European Civil War followed after World War I. The formal armistice and Paris treaties of 1918 and 1919 led to new rounds of civil and small wars. Further attempts at revolution were spreading through Europe. A revolutionary state in Germany was being proclaimed, and attempts to export the revolution to Poland were being made. The Biennio Rosso was announced in Italy as the Bolshevik Triennium in Spain. The second wave of European civil war followed the economic crisis of 1929. Coalitions were formed in and between countries, with popular fronts on one side and fascist conservative alliances on the other. The latter rose to defend alleged national interests, ethnic homogeneity, racial purity, or European civilization that was proclaimed to be under communist threat. The former to defend universal rights, freedom, and democracy.
1945 sealed the victory of the unitary nation-state, which secured the monopoly of violence in post-war Europe, but also became the key component in the emerging Cold War configuration of the international system. The East-West divide into spheres of influence prevented large-scale international conventional wars from breaking out, with the threat of the nuclear Third World War hovering over the globe. Yet it also gave free rein to nation-states within their respective blocs to allow internal conflicts, revolutions, rebellions, terrorism, or any other kind of conflict to foster and thrive, including the escalation of many of these internal conflicts by applying repressive and brute force. Separatist groups in Spain, like ETA, Ireland, like the IRA, Corsica, for example, the National Liberation Front, Cyprus, and the Netherlands, each appropriated symbols, style, and ideology from left-wing radical groups and staged attacks and hijackings of their own. Against this global tide of left-wing revolutionary activism, extremism and terrorism, an upsurge of neo-fascist radicalization also bred terrorist attacks from the right, while forging transnational ties between extreme right-wing activists and terrorists in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, but also the United States. After this, the revolutions of 1989 to 1991 seemed to lay bare the innate contradictions of communism and socialism, and also proved that the West and its liberal democratic systems had won the day. However, conflicts still sparked in the American-dominated post-Cold War world. The first problem of the post-Cold War period can be found in the rise of a new nationalism. Following the Yugoslav wars in the 1990s, separatist and irredentist armed conflict had continued, leading to a significant number of casualties and destabilizations across the region. Along the borders of Europe, the Caucasus, Georgia, and in 2014, after the Ukrainian Revolution in the Donbass and the annexation of Crimea by the Russian Federation. The second challenge to the American-dominated world was the fundamentalist wave of terrorism. The 9/11 attacks in the United States of America in 2001 proved to be the boiling point, with the subsequent war on terror creating new extra-legal categories of combatants. Besides, the rise of internet via Facebook, Twitter, along with other social media platforms, has lifted the global patterns of polarization, radicalization and terrorism to a whole new dimension. Populism propelled new authoritarian leaders to power in Brazil, for example, Jair Bolsonaro, the US, Donald Trump, and Hungary, or kept them there as in certain post-Soviet states and Russia.